Shalom. So, this past week, on the 4th of July, my family did what I think is going to be our tradition forever, which is we went down to Independence Hall. I mean, did you guys know that where the Constitution was signed is right here? That's so cool. Like, yeah, I know. So, you're down on the 4th. It was incredible. And we went to the Weitzman because my wife was doing a whole program there. And on the outside, they have, they're doing like a chalk art thing with quotes from Washington's letter to the Jewish community in Rhode Island, right, that is there about how we will be protected and safe here. And it was an incredible sort of moment of what it feels like to be a Jew in America in this time, and part of this long tradition of what it means to be a part of the Jewish community in the United States, which is different than basically any other place that we found ourselves in. And the community looks different mostly than it has been in other places in our long diaspora. And it made me think about what the role of the Jewish community, the institutions of the community have been, and what they should be. So what we're going to do today, don't get too comfortable, because what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about and talk to each other a little bit about what we want the role of specifically a synagogue in our Jewish community in America to be. And here's where I'm going to do a little historical recap. And there are many people in the room who know much more than I do, so just raise your hand if I get something wrong or you want to take over, okay? All right. Because originally, right, where the first synagogue in America, of course, is? Okay, so Turo, what about Mikveh Israel? It's like, is that number 2? 3, 2, Rena, come on. What? Is that right? Oh, I don't know about that. Okay. All right. See, you're already at where I was getting, right? One had a cemetery first, right? And one had a building first. Because originally, the point of a synagogue in this country was mostly burial of Jews, right? Taking care of Jewish bodies, which also, by the way, goes to sort of what originally the role of Jews in our country, or I mean, not with the first things we see, right, is George Washington basically saying, Jews, you will be safe here, right? It's okay. Or we have one of my favorite letters of all time from the board of the Dutch West India Trading Company when Stuyvesant tries to kick the Jews out of the colony of New York, and he sends to the board saying we're going to kick all the Jews out, and the board of the Dutch West India Trading Company is like, well, actually the board of the company's half Jewish, and but we want this to be a place of tolerance, and we want this to be a place where you're allowed. And Jews, as we so often are, were sort of a test case of tolerance for the early colonies, right? And what it meant to be in this country. And so the Jews, the synagogues have that role. And then they sort of become what? Synagogues are a center for, especially in the movements for bringing in immigrants, right? As immigration comes, right, that we are a way of helping immigrants find a place, a home here, find a culture here, right? In many ways, the conservative movement was basically sort of created to help Russian immigrants acclimate to what it means to be a good American, right? Okay, this is where Rena's like, that's not entirely right, Rabbi, but you'll sit at your Kiddush table and tell everyone why I'm wrong. But right, like the German Jews had the Reform movement, and then like the funders of the seminary, like Schiff and Warburg, were basically trying to like get the immigrant Jews to look more American, right? And that's what the conservative movement was about. Whew, okay, the professor is giving me nods. I'm a little out over my skis here. Then as we progress in time, right, synagogues become, in many ways, community centers, right? It's not just a place to bring in immigrants. It's not just a place to sort of organize chesed, but it becomes a place for people to gather. It becomes a place for people to see themselves and be seen. And this is where, right, in the middle of the last century, right, every single letterhead, not every single one, but what was on the letterhead of most synagogues from the 50s until like 10 years ago? This is a random trivia question for you, and then I promise we're going to move on. Anyone want to guess? The building. Nice, Jonathan. Yes, the synagogue letterhead and logo was an outline of the building or some prominent feature of the building, right? Because the building was the thing. Right? We have made it in this country. We had a capital campaign. We built a building, right? Or we moved from, I can't do Philly neighborhoods yet, guys. I'm sorry. Kensington, I think that was like an early old Jewish neighborhood, right? We moved from there up to Elkins Park, right? And now we have a building. Look at us. We're here. And that was the role of a synagogue for quite some time. And as many synagogues are now moving away from the building, right, in their letterhead to other things. The role of what a synagogue can and should be in our society is shifting and being called into question. What does it mean to have a group of Jews that come together here? Heschel writes, again in the 50s, right, what's the main point of a synagogue for Heschel? It starts with a P and it rhymes with shmer. Prayer, exactly right. Nice job. Yes. Right? He says, Heschel writes, that's what a synagogue can do that nowhere else is going to do. Right? Other places you can find a pool. Other places you can find a youth group. Other places you can find a meal train and a chesed committee or whatever it is, right? But only in shul can you pray. And can you think about God? And can you be asked to think about God? And do we facilitate the experience of thinking about God? When in the first charter of USY, see, I did a little research, just not enough. In the first charter for the first chapter of United Synagogue Youth, right? What's the number one goal of USY? What? Oh, I thought someone said it. Do you know it? It's to teach Torah, right? It's the number one goal is to make sure that kids today know the Torah. Because we're worried that they're not going to know it. And so that was the main goal of USY and synagogues was educational. So, I brought us to today. We are going to take a little bit of time. We're going to turn to, take like groups of 4 or 5. Take your whole row, take the people around you. The question that I have for you is, what do you think the Jewish people need from a synagogue today? Is it community? Is it spirituality and prayer? Is it bringing new people in? Is it education in Torah? By the way, of course the answer is everything, but what do you think, right, the Jewish people are going to need from our synagogues in the years ahead? Is the question clear? Okay, thanks. We'll get to it. I'm hearing from here. Turn to the person next to you. Take a minute, 18 seconds. Go. All right, everyone, take 18 more seconds. 18 more seconds. All right, friends, let's bring it back in. This is good. So we have one of the heads of our strategic plan is here. So if you just want to take notes as we go and remember it, just remember it all. Okay, thank you. All right, so who's got, anyone, an idea that they want to share or steal from the person next to you and then pretend like it was yours of what you think the role of a synagogue is going to be when, some well-meaning rabbi 25 years from now on the 4th of July is talking about the role of a shul, right? What are they going to add to the list of things or highlight from this list we already went through that we're going to need? Okay, I'm going to give everyone should be ready to shout something out, but let's hear you, please. Gotcha. Gotcha. So one role, which by the way, might have been the role even back in Washington's day, right? But a role of helping Jews stand up against anti-Semitism, right? Whatever that might look like in the given era, right? But being a place for Jews to be safe from anti-Semitism and maybe even teaching Jews how to feel proud of their Jewish heritage or stand up to anti-Semitism or something like that. Nice. I saw a hand over here. Did you want? She took yours. Yeah, oh, okay. We talked about kind of dovetails with that is, unfortunately, I think the synagogues have some role in the physical security of the Jewish community. Okay, so there's sort of the spiritual security of the Jewish community with anti-Semitism, and maybe, unfortunately, right, some role in the physical security of the Jewish people. In the coming years, could be, yeah. Okay, so build community, preserve our culture. I'm going to push you for a second. Has the need to build community or the way in which the shul builds community changed since Kaplan's writing about it, like 100 years ago? He asked loadedly. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay, so the answer could be no, right? The answer could be that the need that we had in the 30s, the 50s, the 60s is just as great, the same as it is today. This is a place to gather and come together, right? By the way, Beit Knesset, I mean, that's what we've been for a long time, is a place to come together. Yeah. Affordable daycare. Nice. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right. Great. So if anyone would like to donate to the ECC so that we can help with that we love that. No, but what I'm hearing in that is we'd put this in the bucket of caring for our families, right? Figuring out what they need, right? In a way that it used to be about helping to bring in immigrants and helping them find a job or something like that, right? Now it's daycare that is affordable so that people can work. No, it's a great idea. And again, well, Jonathan, I see you 1 second, but yeah, Les. It's a place you can show up and know that you will be sort of understood to some extent and that you can leave with some hope to some extent, right? It's a place of finding hope. I like it. Yes, please.
All of these were permanent, but a lot of the functions that we mentioned could be fulfilled by other institutions.
Okay, I'm going to repeat for people who can't hear. A lot of what we're mentioning, right, or some of these things could be fulfilled by other institutions in the world. But
with the synagogue, I mean, we come here, yes, we come here for prayer, we come here mainly for community, and the synagogue reinforces our concept of community, which we need now more than in the old days when we all lived in the same neighborhood.
Okay. So now that we live in a world where some of us live in Wynwood and some of us live in Bala and some of us live in other places around here that I'm still learning the names of. Ardmore's one of them, right? Like that joke's gonna stop working at some point, but okay, right? We live in different places. We go to different schools, right? Our kids go to different schools. We work far afield. We might need people, something to bring us together, and I could argue also physically bring us together in a world where we're increasingly, right, online or not, or whatever that is, right, but this can be a place where we come together to just be in the community, and it provides that. Let's take like 2 more, and then we're gonna have to move on, because, you know, kiddush, yeah. A place where we can practice Judaism. Uh-huh. So a place that has the resources, the calendar of the Jewish people, right? In a way that, by the way, right, was less necessary in the shtetls, you know, back in the day, right? When the wood choppers had their own minyan and the dentists had their own minyan and right? Like there was just minyanim everywhere, right? Now, outside of Center City, that doesn't happen. And so there's a place that you have a minyan, there's a place that's on Jewish time, there's a place that offers you to live according to the Jewish calendar, and it's 1001 Remington Road, right? This is the place that you can go and know that you will find what you need to do Jewish practice. Okay, last one. Yeah, David, please take us home. Intergenerational continuance. Say more. Right, doing the things that are necessary so that we are not only here for ourselves, but we are here for our children, our grandchildren, those yet to come, right? That we focus on that. And by the way, that is something that I think I've said this before, but I'm sure I'll say it again, right? That a synagogue does that very few other institutions or groups do in our world today, right? Which is that the promise of this building and this group is that we will care about you from the moment that you're born until the moment that you need that cemetery that we have, right? That there are very few other things that will be here for you at every single step of your life, that will be here in every phase, in every function, right? And we make that promise that we will be here, right? And if we're missing a gap, if we're missing something, we'll try to create it. We'll try to do something. We've talked about this a million times, right? The people in their 20s, right, and probably now into mid-30s or whatever, never existed in the history of the world before. Right, that time frame, that period of time, it used to, right, if you look at the Mishnah, right, it's like at 18 you get a job and at 21 you're married, right? Like that is not the way that we live our lives anymore. And so the Jewish people don't really have something until, Mike creates it, that we're going to be able to do for someone in those mid-20s range. Same thing is true, by the way, the same thing is true later in our lives, right? The time period of when, kids, if we have children, leave the home, retirement until whatever, right? We call it middlescence, golden year, whatever that is, right? That time period used to not exist before. And now, thank God, we have many, 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 many people in this age where we want to find something that we can offer for you. So part of what the synagogue is going to need to be is looking at the whole life of a human and figuring out how we can serve you in every one of those moments. Part of it might be about physical and emotional security, right? About being a Jew and having a place. It's going to be about being known and seen and coming together, about offering that space for people to be on Jewish time and do Jewish things. Right? All of this is going to go into what the synagogue is going to need to be in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And there's one thing that you didn't sort of say that I'm going to leave us with, which is that, first of all, to give you maybe that hope, there are very smart people involved in the shul, this shul and others, that are thinking about that. I'll leave it to which one I was pointing to over here. Yeah, right. No, this is something we take seriously at this synagogue, right? This is something that we want to do to grow, to adapt, to be what the Jewish people need us to be. And one of the things, right, that we learn from the Parsha this week, right, is Korah comes and wants, he says to Moses and Aaron, you guys take too much on yourselves, right? The entire community is holy. And the rabbis sort of go out of their way when they decide what Korah did that was so bad, right? And they say, no, it wasn't his complaint. It was the way he did it. It was the way he stood up to Moses. It was et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because ultimately, what he said is true, right? The leadership of a community can't fall on one person. Right? It can't be just Ken Kravitsky trying to do what the Jewish people need. I mean, if it was anyone, it would be Ken. But it can't just be one person. The entire community is holy. The entire community needs to be a part of growing and changing and being what the future generations of this community need us to be. And it's something that we're all able and capable to do. Shabbat Shalom, friends.